Hello, everyone. It is Lark.
And Kimberly.
That's right. And today this is auto asphyxiation. It's auto asphyxiation every single week. And today we're talking about a lot of interesting things. We're discussing teen girls and space. And just kind of starting it off, because it seems like there's not a lot of space for teen girls. And can you, Kimberly, give us some stories about you growing up in Warren County and as a teenager, and where did you hang out? Were there any places for you to hang out?
Yes, we hung out at the Blair Academy Cemetery, where the founder of Blairstown and the founder of Blair Academy is buried. And at that time, it was really in a shambles, that cemetery. The graves going back to like the 1800s and like all sunken in and creepy. Perfect hangout for some creepy goth girls. And we would wander around Blair Academy. You can't do that anymore. It's a closed campus now. And then we would hang out. There's a waterfall on Main Street in Blairstown. We would hang out there, and we would hang out on a wall right by the main area. Fun fact, if you watch the beginning of Friday the 13th, the original one, you can see Main Street in Blairstown, New Jersey, and hear the church bells that I grew up next to.
Oh, that's true. You grew up in the Friday the 13th, where Friday the 13th took place. You grew up around there. That's kind of
Yeah.
wild, actually. But that's a a thing, and and I think what do I remember me hanging out? Where did I hang out? I think we hung out in the I want to call it the lagoons in Playa del Rey. I don't even think they call it Playa del Rey anymore because too many people got beat up and stuff. Like too many bad things happened, so they renamed it to something else. I think it's I don't want to call it Isla Vista. That's Santa Barbara, but they've changed the name of it. It used to be called Playa del Rey. It was by Loyola Marymount. That area, it was between like Santa Monica and Manhattan Beach, and they called it something else now, and I don't remember what it was. I also remember hanging out at Builders Emporium. Um, because there were guys there. They were like teenage boys used to work at Builders Emporium, and we thought they were cute, so we used to hang out at the one in Torrance. Um, and we also used to hang out at the mall. Okay, we used to hang out at the mall, which was yeah. I'm surprised you didn't bring you guys didn't have a mall.
We got cars. Yeah, we would go to the mall. But the mall for us was pretty far. It was like a 40-minute drive.
Oh, okay. I was in Los Angeles. We were by like six malls. Six,
Yeah.
we were surrounded by malls. But I think about it like really, you know, a lot of the things that girls did then, it has to do a lot to do with, spending money and like capitalism and like commercial type stuff. Not all the time. It was either about, raising hell or spending money. But I think about how many things that that guys have, boys have. They have we call it video games. They have sporting events they can hang out. They have the D&D. They had comic book stores. And here's the thing: it was weird if you were like a girl and went to a comic book store. And I mean, I think about it even now as a grown woman. I go to a comic book store and people are like, "Oh,
Oh.
oh, you're here." Like it's not normal for me as, as a non-guy, like as a woman to go into a comic book store. It's almost like, we're not allowed to leave the house. And here's the thing I think is interesting. Like I said, from childhood to adulthood, we there's, segregation by gender, and it seems like women, especially without children, have few options to like hang out and do things like beyond like brunch. and like and kind of like, why are these gender things still happening? Like why does it seem like okay, things are not only culturally segregated, but it seems like they're gender segregated in regards to social life? And why are our social lives so gender segregated by gender. And why does it seem like between the ages of like 30 and 50, you don't see women at all? They disappear.
You're right, unless they have kids, and then they have like mommy groups and stuff that they get that they meet up with. But it's I think in actually the gender divide is being furthered. And I think it's being furthered with a lot of the propaganda and rhetoric from the right in the protection of children. Um, and it really is the protection of little girls when it comes down to it. They're trying to protect little girls. And I don't feel like they're trying to protect little girls because they view them as precious little beings that they need to protect. I think that they're trying to protect them because they're the next generation of breeders for the white race, for lack of a better term.
No, that and I think about, kind of we're going to talk about Trump and his whole fertilization president. He had a thing where he's like, I'm going to be the fertilization president. Everyone's going to have babies, et cetera, et cetera. And I think about on March 25th, he signed his executive order to mandate documented proof of citizenship for voting. And this policy is going to really impact women, non-binary individuals, and historically excluded and marginalized communities, especially those who've had name changes owing to marriage or divorce or something such as that. I mean, I think about that, and that's very scary to me because he's talking about making women have children, and he's talking about making women have children. He's talking about he's going to be the fertilization president, and this kind of rhetoric, it's like women aren't actually people. We're just objects, you know?
Well, look at Elon Musk. Like he has 14 children. He has several baby mamas, and all of his children have been conceived through IVF, except apparently for little X, aka human shield, that he carries around on his shoulders all the time. But that's apparently the only one. But I don't even know if that's true. Like all of them have been conceived through IVF because he wanted gender selection. He wanted them all to be boys. And I don't think he views any of those women that he had children with as like human beings at all.
No, I don't think either of them. I don't think Trump or Musk views women as anything but objects and tools in order to as a means to an objective. And the thing is that with like white women, it's essentially like, oh, we're creating more like heirs. And with other women, whether Black women, other women of color, or working class women, because in a way, I feel like once you become, well, I'll talk about that in a moment, but it's like you're just creating more workers. We need more laborers. We need more workers from you. So we need you to create the workers, and we need you, other group of women, to create the heirs. And it seems like this not having women be able to socialize, it feels like it's part of that. It's like it's part of that idea, part of that narrative. Like, I mean, what do you think about that idea?
No, I think it is. I think it is absolutely part of that narrative. I think it's absolutely by design. I think removing the vote from married women, non-binary people, trans people, anybody who's changed their name, I people who are in rural communities and can't get to places to prove their citizenship. I think that is absolutely by design.
Yeah, and I think also too, it's like there's always this combination. I feel that the subjugation of women, white women, and the subjugation of men in regards to like policing, it's kind of like it seems like since the Emancipation Proclamation, which means like since Black people have been freed from chattel slavery, it seems as if there's been this weird narrative of like, oh, if you go out, if you're like a woman and you're a white woman, this Black man is going to attack you. And it seems like this is part of that narrative. Like this is part of that. I don't know. I mean, and I know that, one of the things I remember is that the Central Park incident. and thinking about like, the media in regards to how they help to kind of further this idea.
No, they absolutely have. And I think, I think about, not just in their, with the Central Park incident, not just in their trial by media and judgment by media, which is essentially what happened. I think about just even like a simple little thing, like, there's a robbery in your neighborhood and the news talks to somebody on the street. They always pick the worst possible person they absolutely can to put on television. Like they always pick somebody that looks like they're obviously like they haven't showered. Maybe they're just on their way home from work and they're just like tired. Maybe they're on drugs and they're just talking up a storm, but they always pick like the absolute worst person they can to be like the face of a community. And I think that's also done purposefully.
And I think that's the thing. The media. We talk about the fact that because we're media, and we talk about the fact that it's like they talk about church being the most segregated hour in America. I think the most segregated place in America is the newsroom. Not only is it racially segregated, it's also segregated. I mean, I don't know. I mean, in a class, it's class segregated in regards to it, and who gets to decide what is shown. I feel that, how Black men have been betrayed in the media, and also kind of like, this idea like white women, you should be afraid of these Black men. I feel that this has been perpetrated by white men who are in charge of the media, whether they own the media or whether they're writers or things such as that. And I think about in the South, the narrative. Think about we call it the birth of a nation, and they had these white women being chased by these Black men, and this has been part of the reason why I think in a way it's like they don't want, once you're starting to become a woman, if you're a white woman, they don't want you going out there in the world. They want you to be at home. um and I like, I mean, I think this is something that's just that's really has always like fascinated me. And in the same token, you know it's like Black women can't be a victim. Like, if like, even if you're like a little girl, you're not a little girl, you're a Black person, and you can't be a victim because only humans can be victims, and you're not actually like a human, so no one can really do anything to you. So it's like this weird, um I don't know. There's this weird thing going on that I think that needs to be explored in regards to why, like, there's nothing for women to do
Yeah.
in regards to social life. I think that that's an active thing, you know?
Well, I think they keep white women scared purposefully. Um, like I think of like adjacent people that I knew growing up, that like Blairstown is an hour and 20 minutes from New York City. And I know people still in Blairstown that have never and will never go to New York City because it's a big, scary place. Like, just absolutely too scary. They keep white women scared purposefully to keep them sequestered at home, because then what is there to do? Oh, have children. Or if you don't have children, you can work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think this is the thing that's just really, interesting for me. And if white women, or even just like any like women, Black women, Latino women, it's like, I always talk about the fact that I'm like a radical integrationist, and that's included culture, gender. And it seems like when they do create a space, like say right now, we're like, oh, Kimberly, like there's no space for girls, and they're like, oh, okay. Instead of going like, okay, well, let's make sure that we include girls and non-binary people in the video game world, or in the Dungeons and Dragons world, or in the baseball world. Oh no, let's create this separate thing for them, like this separate, let's sequester them in some separate girl land like thing. And not only that, not only are we going to separate it by gender, we're also going to separate it by race. So here's a black girl thing, here's a white girl thing, here's a Latino girl thing. And so like, okay, we're not even, we can't talk to boys, we can't talk to people who are different ethnicities than us. Like this is the kind of help that we get when we talk about, oh, there's no things for girls to do. Then they, it seems like they figure out a way to like make it a separate thing that's also um race or culture specific. I mean, am I off there, or that doesn't it seem like that's
No, it absolutely does. And it's like when I think, like when I was growing up, like I was in the Girl Scouts for like a hot second. And I was in the Girl Scouts for a hot second because, and my nieces have been in Girl Scouts since, and they're very progressive. My experience of Girl Scouts was that we were going to learn how to sew and bake cookies, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to go camping, and like I wanted to be a Boy Scout because the Boy Scouts, you got a pocket knife, and I thought that was super cool. And they now actually it's now just scouts. It's not referred to as Boy Scouts anymore. It's now just scouting, and it is completely integrated. You can be a girl or a non-binary or transgender person, and you can join the Boy Scouts. You can also join Girl Scouts. They do different things. They do some of the same things, but there's like a little bit, like I was interested in like running around the woods and learning how to fish and stuff like that. I didn't want to learn how to sew and bake cookies.
no, or so, so funny. It's like weird. It's very interesting that the Girl Scouts are, in many ways socially they're more progressive than the Scouts. We'll call it the Scouts. But it's interesting. They show you how to like run your own business. Like it's like they kind of essentially like uplift the principles of neoliberalism, which is, I always found that quite interesting. Like you're going to sell cookies and you're going to be a good, you're going to be a girl boss. Like essentially, Girl Scouts turn people into girl bosses. And I don't, I feel bad talking about the Girl Scouts because I do like think that the Girl Scouts are, I think that they're really cool. But I like this group in Oakland started the thing called the Radical Brownies, and they were like political brownies. And I was like, oh, I like it. And then the Girl Scouts said you can't use our name, so now they're
Uh,
called the butterflies. But I was like, well, I kind of think you guys should like actually incorporate that into your name. I actually kind of like that. That's kind of cool. But I actually went, as I don't know if you know this, but my husband was a Eagle Scout. And we went to this some kind of 100-year Scout anniversary, and it was in Wisconsin. They have had a little cabin and all this stuff, and they had different genders there. They had women and well, I have to say I did not see any non-binary people, but they did have women and men and girls and boys. It did also, but I was kind of like bummed out that it didn't seem like it was culturally inclusive. I did like the fact that the Scouts did have, it was different genders, but it still was. I was like the only Black person there, and I was not a Scout. They were like, maybe you could be in the picture so we could get some more people. Actually they weren't that explicit about it, but I kind of felt like, okay, anyway, like I said, it wasn't, I'm not trying to talk about people in a bad way, but I'm just saying I noticed that. And but that is a positive thing. I do feel that every time somebody goes, oh well, we don't have something that's not inclusive, like their whole idea is let's make a separate thing with and it's like, and we see how harmful this whole let's make a separate thing is, because once that funding for the separate, it's like, first, number one, you separate the funding sources, so then you have the boy thing, which is a real thing, and that's not the real thing, but you know what I'm saying, you got the boy thing, which is a real thing, and then, oh, we're gonna get a grant for this extra girl thing, so then you have the girl thing, and then the administration changes and they go, oh, we're going to cut the funding for the extra girl thing. And so And it's kind of like, well, can I be part of the boy thing? Well, we can't really let you in because that would be like, you know, like DEI. And so we can't even, I mean, you see how this is set up. It's like almost a trap. I always feel like, in a way, when you have things that are segregated, whether they're gender or culture, it's a trap because you segregate the money, you segregate the friendship. So it's kind of like, well, none of my friends are gone because I'm in a whole separate thing, the one that's funded. Like if I'm a white man, I'm in the funded camp. I don't really mind that, I'm like, I feel bad that you got defunded, but I clearly still am able to do my thing and I don't really care.
Yeah,
So I
and
mean,
that's
not
what
trying
it
to make,
comes down to.
yeah, it does. And it's,
It
go
we're
ahead.
we're asking for inclusivity, not a separate space. And I think that I think separate spaces for certain things, like I understand when like people like just, like there's like a small Jewish group or a small like Brazilian group, or pick whatever. I understand like people want to talk about things and relate to things that are very specific to their own experiences, but on a larger scale that just separates us more. And when we have these big groups like scouting and other kinds of social activities, segregating them off into girls only here and boys only here isn't doing anybody any favors.
No, I mean, I think this is, I mean, and I think it's that, like you said, I do understand it in like some cases, like if it's led by like the person, the people who are maybe historically excluded. But if it's supposed to be a general thing, like to me,
No.
unless you're calling your item or your group the white man, newspaper, white man NewJersey.com, the white man Wall Street, the white. See, the thing is that if it is a white man thing, then fine, then call it that. But if you're not calling that, you're implying that it's universal. So then it should be universal inclusive. I don't need a Black California LA version of of your thing that you claim is universal. Unless you want to admit that this is an all white male thing. I think that's the thing. At least be honest. Stop being all this. Stop being a little bit of BS. Like tell the truth about what your organization is, and that way we can actually like work these things out. But I think that we want to pretend like we're oh, I want to help you. I'm going to help you by making this separate but equal thing for you. Like we talk about that in the Constitution, that that's not a thing, but yet it seems to be a thing in a lot of these social um, nonprofit type organizations. And anyway, but I want to talk about another thing. Is that it was a study and it said that men occupy 80% of public spaces, and I was like, what? Like in parks and plazas, recreation areas, 80%. And like a lot of times girls don't feel like teen girls don't even feel safe. Like I know teen girls don't feel safe, adult women don't feel safe. And like, I mean, of course, this is probably maybe we all know the answer to this question, but do you think they're designing these spaces to make us feel unsafe so that we don't go outside and we just stay in the house and take care of babies? Is that what the thing is?
I think yeah, I absolutely. And I mean look, like 80% of public spaces are occupied by men. And like I noticed like a lot more and a lot younger, like little girls are getting very into like skincare and stuff like that, which is good for you. It's never too early to start taking care of your skin. But like they hang out at Sephora all the time, and like that's what they do, and they're like so focused on like beauty and hair and like outfits and everything like that. Not that girls aren't in general to some extent, but it seems like there's a hyper focus on appearance to appeal to get yourself a partner. And I think that's really like it ties into the trad wife trend. It ties into like these like homestead farm trends, like these trends of having enormous amounts of children, even though you may or may not be able to afford them. Like, I think it all kind of ties in together. And I do think it is to keep girls focused on one thing, and that is being at home and being a mom.
I think about the one time I had my niece at my house. I was she was kind of hanging out for like a week or whatever, spending the summer with me. And I told her and her friend to go ride bikes and just come back when the street lights come on. I was like, doing Generation X, just have fun. And then maybe around 4 o'clock, this SUV pulls up to my house. And my niece comes out of the car with her nails done, and the other mom came up to me and she was like, well, they were riding bikes, and I felt that was not a good idea because, it wasn't safe just riding around the streets. So I took them to get their nails done. I felt that she was giving me shade. I like in a way like, oh, you let them go outside and ride bikes like ruffians, and I took them to get their nails done, and then we went to lunch. Like, she's trying to tell me like how to be like a better mom or whatever. And I was really, really angry. And I was just kind of like, so this is more appropriate, like having like people like girls in the sixth grade getting their nails done. You taking them to get their nails done and having like brunch was more appropriate than them riding their bikes around the neighborhood. And they were
Yeah,
fun. They were happy to ride their bikes around the neighborhood. So I was just really like, this is what we, because riding your bike isn't safe. It's always kind of like, not only it's like, here's the thing. That's the whole thing. If a girl is not afraid, that's okay. Everybody else will tell her she should be afraid. You should be afraid. Like, you're not afraid. Well, you should be afraid because here are all the horrible things that could happen to you. Um,
exactly.
and I find that really interesting. And I feel like in a way that this is, they train people early. They train you to not leave the house. They train you to be be uncomfortable. They create public space that is unsafe for people who aren't, who can't physically defend themselves. So they set up the situation, and then they kind of, and if you're still not afraid, then they got to tell you you should be afraid. Like, what's wrong with you? We've set up all these things and all these traps to make you afraid. Why are you not afraid yet? What should we do? Should we slap you? Like, what kind of horrible thing can we do to you to make you afraid?
I think it's really weird that that mom just thought it was okay to take your niece in a car without letting her guardian know. Like, what happened if she was in an accident? Like, that to me is like, you knew where they were when they were riding their bikes. And then she just got dropped off in an SUV. Like, what the fuck?
With her nails done. I was like, what? Like, what? I mean, that's the thing too. Like, where did you go? It could be, she could get gangrene or something. I'm not really sure that's what we call it. She could get flesh-eating disease. I don't know. Like I felt like this was just wild. To me, it was, I always remember that incident. And I'm like, that was the wildest thing that ever happened to me. Cause I felt like she was mad at me. I felt like she was telling me, like, this is how you mom. See how I'm doing mom stuff and teaching them how to be young ladies. And look at you, weirdo. And I just, I mean, and I just think about just, why do we have things set up so that things are supposed to be scary? Why can't we have things set up so if you are a 4'10", 10-year-old girl, because some people are short, if you're a 4'10", 10-year-old girl, and you want to go out and take the bus or walk somewhere, and you're in a major city or even a rural area, why can't you do that? Why is it set up so that person can't do that? We can't even allow girls and women and teenagers autonomy, when they're mature enough. Like, to me, there are some mature 10-year-olds that could totally, take the train or take the subway. And we don't allow that anymore. Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
We don't allow girls to do that anymore. We barely allow, because I mean, I felt like I snuck out the house a lot, to be
Oh, I
honest.
did too. Yeah,
Yeah,
I did too.
there wasn't like I could go out. All the things that were fun that I was doing were not actually allowed. I had to like go out the window. So,
My dad was a firefighter, and because he was a firefighter and I had a second story bedroom, I had a pirate ladder to escape just in case of a fire.
actually great, great. But I think about that. You know, if you're a guy, you could just leave the house. Be like, oh, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna play basketball. I'm gonna go out and play soccer. I'm gonna go out and whatever. But if you're like a woman a teenager, and you're like 11 and you want to hang out, you got to go out the window. If you want to do something beyond go to the mall, you had to go out the window. And that's something
Yep.
I actually forgot about that. Like literally where I was allowed to go was to the mall. My parents would take me to the mall and then pick me up from the mall. So I was able to go, I could choose the various malls I wanted to go to. Do I want to go to the Santa Monica Mall? Did I want to go to the Beverly Center? Did I want to go to the West Side Pavilion? So I had choices in that way. I could choose which mall I could, waste away in. Or, I could sneak out the window and then, have real fun. So, but I mean, it was like the sneaky thing. And I just, why do we have that? Why is that a thing? And why is that continue to be a thing that if you're a woman and you want to do anything beyond being a wife and a mom, you feel like you have to sneak around?
Yeah, like you do, and it's funny, like it, of course, my thought just left me, but like you talk about, like, there are not places like we train women to be afraid of public spaces, and not we obviously, like, women need to be aware in public spaces because public spaces are full of men. And unfortunately, I know not all men, but until it's no men, it's all men. So um but they you I was not taught to be afraid of things. Like, I was like, my dad taught me how to box. My mom was a loudmouth from the Bronx. So I was not really, like, taught to be afraid of things. I was taught to, like, be aware of my surroundings, but I wasn't taught to be afraid of things. So, like, stupidly, sometimes I'm just like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. We can go there at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And other people are like, maybe we shouldn't. And I'm like, but why? We're just go and pick something up and leave. It's going to be fine. But we do definitely, there is a huge rhetoric where we teach women to be afraid. And it's beyond just being aware and capable or carrying something that you can defend yourself with, even keys. It's beyond that. It's you must stay in the house because everywhere else is unsafe.
Exactly. And I think that's why I hate the word safe in some ways, because I'm like, what do you mean by safe? Like, it's like, I feel that if I'm trapped in this house and I'm trapped in this, this kind of paradigm of this idea of what a woman is, I feel like that's very unsafe too. And that could drive me insane. And so I feel like that is unsafe for everyone around me. So I want to stay safe, and this is why I feel like all women, all teenage girls should be safe to do whatever they want to do, and I think that's that's something we have to work on. I think in regards to urbanism, just talking about the safety of women, and I feel that I'm still kind of mad about the election. I'm mad because I feel that the men in urbanism who have the platforms in regards to the media platforms, they didn't care enough to not allow a fascist in the White House because let's be honest, they didn't try very hard. There was no, hey, Trump's a fascist. Now they're just like, oh no, we're going to lose our bike lane. That's Oh, that's sad. That's sad. That's so depressing for you. I'm sad that you're going to lose your bike lane and your bus. I'm really really sorry. Well, I'm about to not be able to vote and also not be like, leave the house. That's going to suck for me too. But unfortunately, you're going to lose your bike lane. Sad sad day for you.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and with that, is there anything else you'd like to add, Kimberly?
Well, we're talking about just like feminism as a whole, and you mentioned something about maybe not today, but you mentioned something about, like, why are people in the United States so afraid of feminism? And it's because we're so used to just a binary system where men are in power and women are below them. So the men in power are terrified that women are going to be in power And then we're going to subjugate them in the way that they have subjugated all of us. But they don't realize that what feminism is that feminism is freedom. It really is. It's freedom. It's liberty for everybody. It means that a man can be a primary caregiver in the home and not face social repercussions for being a housewife. It means that if he wants to wear fingernail polish, he's not going to get made fun of at work. And it means that he can have feelings and like actually like feel things, love partners effectively, love their friends better, and nobody's going to tell them to man up about it.
That's you know that's a perfect ending. That's a perfect ending for this show, because there's nothing more I can say, because yes, that's why. And the thing is that yes, feminism is freedom. We should just like feminism is freedom. And so with that, thank you all for joining us this today, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Bye.